अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय।
So I'd like to begin with Swami Swatmananda ji. He is a young dynamic leader serving at Chinmaya Mission Mumbai since 2000. Again, I believe fair amount of you are new, so you may not be familiar with him or his teachings. He expounds the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta through talks on the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads and other texts of Vedanta and Bhakti through camps, meditation retreats, interactive sessions and discussions for youth and adults. Swamiji conducts the one-year residential youth empowerment program, which I referred to earlier, with Swami Vivekananda also conducts, which is a value-based leadership program to create nation builders of tomorrow. It's a combination of study and service. The mantra is learn, serve, and grow. 500 plus youth have been trained by Swamiji to date. The two Yuva Veers you heard who chanted the prayers, and many of the youngsters that you see around the hall today have participated in the program with Swamiji and are here for their service to the cause. He is as comfortable on a trek with the youth as he is in a boardroom with icons of Indian business, which is apparent here. He's also a playwright who has written and directed 2 theatrical performances titled Adrashya, The Quest for the Unseen, based on the Saraswati civilization, and another titled Just Like That, based on the Bhagavad Gita. Swamiji's third play on Swami Vidyaranya will be performed on 20th May 2023 at Chinmaya Vibhuti. Swamiji, with his inexhaustible desire to share knowledge and intelligent use of social media, is never too far from a seeker on his social media handle, Chinmaya Shivam. With an active and popular channel on YouTube, a Facebook page, a Twitter handle, an active blog, even a podcast, Swamiji has an expansive reach across all ages, be it study classes for adults, excursions with young adults, or camps with children. There is a Balvihar camp coming up in May as well, and Swamiji is quite looking forward to it, I think. Compulsive and caring teacher, an inspirational leader, who better to share thoughts on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in Dharma than Swamiji. May I request Brahmachari Chetan, Acharya Chinmaya Mission, Prerna, Navi Mumbai, to, yes, please, to offer a token to Swamiji, please. Thank you. Hari Om. Please join me in inviting Swami Swatmananda, who will address us now on the importance of Dharma in the context of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Swamiji.
Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Respected Ajay ji, Renuka ji, Sudhanshu ji, all the dignitaries present here, and to everyone, Hari Om, Namaskar. Welcome to this C20 Summit, National Conference here, and very happy that all of you have come, and we will have fruitful discussions on various themes, beginning with Dharma. Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayanand ji always said, higher the vision is, greater is the inspiration. In our culture, we know that yatha drishti tatha srishti. As the vision is, so the world appears to us. So what is our vision that we have? Puja Guruji Swami Tejomayanji said a very nice statement based on 18th chapter of the Gita when we celebrated our Vishwa Sammelan, 50th year of Chinmaya movement. So he said, a narrow vision is divisive. When we think small, we think only about I, me and mine. The narrow vision is divisive. And based on the narrow vision is what we have divided the world on so many various factors based on caste, creed, community, gender, nationality, economics, power, different things we have divided. So functional divisions are very important in the world, there is no doubt. But the psychological divisions are what create the sense of inequality. Superiority, inferiority, higher, lower, psychologically, that leads to exploitation, that leads to suffering. And so a narrow vision is divisive. A broad vision is expansive. When we come out of the narrow vision, we think for the community, we think for the country, we expand our vision, more potential manifests, and we work with unity, and we help each other to rise together. So a narrow vision is divisive, a broad vision is expansive, but the spiritual vision is all-inclusive. In spiritual vision, nobody is excluded. And especially in our culture, we say the entire world is one family, that is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So not just human beings, but it is plants, birds, stones, animals, everything. Entire nature is sentient for us. It is alive. It is not, the world is not an object for us. The world is a being for us. And we revere this whole world as the appearance of the divine. And so the vision is from my family is my world to the whole world is my family. That shift is what we have to get in our life. That is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. See, when we were doing some research on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it's very interesting that in the present Parliament building, this is beautifully engraved in the entrance hall of the Parliament. And this is from the Maha Upanishad, which is again very interesting, is Maha Upanishad is found in both the Atharvaveda and in the Samaveda. In Atharvaveda it is in prose and it is in longer version. In Samaveda it is in poetry in a shorter version. So the maxim is from the Upanishad, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And what is this based on? The philosophy is based on the fact that what we believe that the effect is nothing but cause in another form. This entire world when we see is the effect, but that is nothing but the cause in another form. And what is the cause of the whole universe? Scientists may say it is matter, it is material, 5 elements, but Vedanta says that it is one pure consciousness alone, that is infinite. Because infinite is this creation and infinite has to be the cause of the creation. That's why we chant Purnamadaha, Purnamidam. That is infinite, this also is infinite. So when we understand this, that everyone here is an expression of that one supreme cause, that brings the essential oneness. And if that oneness is understood very clearly, then that feeling of family also will come. The cause remaining transcendent, it still appears immanent. Any philosophy which believes in both these will be a philosophy which will speak about oneness and love. If a philosophy does not have any one of these, that is where the challenge comes. When we speak about Dharma, our Dharma is that which will integrate both these things. Bhagwan or consciousness is the ultimate cause which remains transcendent and at the same time appears here also. So that is the basis why we live a beautifully, ecologically sensitive life also. Why do we worship the plants and trees and birds and rivers, mountains? Nowhere in the whole world you will have rivers being called as mothers. We have Mother Ganga, we have Mother Yamuna, we have Mother Saraswati, Brahmaputra, like that, different rivers. We always revere them as mother. Even our country, we say Bharat Mata. So the feeling comes because we understand that that supreme truth is appearing here as divine. So it is transcendent, but it is also immanent. If a culture says the supreme truth only is transcendent and it is not pervading here, then comes the scope for violence, then comes the scope for exploitation, and that's what happens. And if we say that it is only here and not transcendent, then this is perishable. So this is the beautiful culture of Vedanta where we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the entire world is one family, based on this beautiful understanding of Vedanta. And today science also speaks the same language. See, in Vedanta we always say, those of you who have studied Vedanta, you know that the body is made up of 5 elements. So at the body level, all of us are made up of 5 elements. Our mind is also made up of 5 subtle elements. Our pranas are the same 5 pranas that each of us has. Even the air that we breathe, we are breathing in, breathing out. It is one. 5 elements, space, air, fire, water, earth. All of us live through that. So at the level of 5 elements, we are one. At the level of prana, we are one. At the level of mind, we are one. At the level of consciousness, also we are one. And today science accepts that when we speak about quantum physics, and they say that the matter is not the basis of the whole creation, but it is quantum consciousness. Interesting phenomenon in quantum physics is quantum entanglement. One particle is split into 2. And one particle is here, another particle is taken miles away. And what you do to this one particle here, and what transformation this particle goes through, the other particle there will reflect even without doing anything there. How is that possible? Because there is a connection, even though physically one is completely separate. So at body level, mind level, pranic level, consciousness level, all of us are one. And that oneness is most important to have this feeling of love. I want to share with you one very interesting experiment that was conducted based on our DNA, and to show oneness through the DNA. Please share the video.
I'm proud to be English. My family have served and we've defended this country and we've been to war for this country.
I'm really patriotic about Bangladesh.
Well, I am 100% Icelandic, yeah, definitely.
This is a Kurdish wedding with my mom in the traditional Kurdish clothes.
We're just proud black, so that's it.
Yeah, I think we are probably the best country in the world, if I'm honest.
Think about other countries and other nationalities in the world. Are there any that you don't feel you get on with well, or you won't like particularly?
Germany. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Germans.
You might think they're a little bit...
Particularly India and Pakistan, probably, because of the whole, the conflict.
Because I have this side of me that's like, that hates Turkish people. Not people, but the government.
But French?
No. We're just the best, it's just fact.
I'm more important than you. I don't know you, but in my opinion, I am strong and I am more important than a lot of people.
How would you feel about taking a journey based on your DNA?
Yeah, I feel very intrigued.
What could you possibly tell me that I don't know?
So do you know how DNA works? So you get half from mum and half from dad. So 50% from each of them, and they get 50% from their parents, and back and back and back. And all those little bits of your ancestor, they filter down to make you, you. I need you to spit in this tube for me. And you spit up to the little black line.
That's a lot of spit.
Right, the story of you is in that tube. What's it going to tell me?
It's going to be, oh yeah, you're French, and wait, your grandparents are French, and wait.
100% Bengali.
Solid Iraqi.
I'm Cuban.
You're going to tell me that I'm English, like I've told you.
Jay, can you come down and join us?
I'm a little bit nervous, I have to say.
So you ready to find out your results? Will you read it out to us, please?
Wow, look at me.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Shit, I didn't expect that.
All of them.
Whoa! No.
Caucasus, which was Turkish?
Yeah.
Eastern Europe, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece.
I'm 32% British.
What? Great Britain, 30%. Can we 5% German?
I'm Irish.
Yeah.
So I'm a Muslim Jew.
Great Britain, 11%. Are you sure these results are mine?
Eastern Europe?
Iceland has definitely moved closer to Europe now.
I'm gonna go a bit far right now, but this should be compulsory. There would be no such thing as like extremism in the world if people knew their heritage like that. Like, who would be stupid enough to think of such thing as like a pure race?
In a way, we're all kind of cousins, in a broad sense. In a much more direct sense, you have a cousin in this room. Turn around and guess who it is. Wash?
Yeah. What's that?
Why don't you come down here and meet your cousin?
This is the best.
Did you know that?
I didn't know I did. This is like, my heart's pounding right now, I swear to God. We met.
I'm Jay from everywhere by the reason of this.
I'm a real man of the world.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
So would you like to travel to all of these places?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Such a powerful experiment. Each of us are the real people belonging to the whole world. We may be born right now here or wherever we may be, and we may say we belong to this country or whichever country we come from, and we have feeling of passion for the country, no doubt. But we are really global citizens, there's no doubt in that. Our DNA journey itself says that. So one of the actionable points should be that this should become compulsory, where everybody's DNA journey is traced somehow, and each one knows that what is their ancestry, ideally. Then we understand that, yes, from where do we come? And this fanaticism based on whatever it may be religion, it may be nation, all that will change. So this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not a concept, it is a truth. And it is the solution for so many challenges that we face in the world today. Whether it is terrorism, whether it is pollution, climate issues that we are facing, poverty, violence, illiteracy, for so many things, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is the vision, the solution for solving many of these issues. And what has been the philosophy which has been guiding our culture is this. That's why we have lived very eco-friendly lives. We have not attacked any countries till today. In spite of 1200 years of invasion, Bharat has not gone out and attacked any country. Why? Because it's our own family. Like Gurudev said, you don't go and chop off your own finger if it pokes your eye. That feeling of oneness is there in this culture. Not only we have not attacked, so many people who have got persecuted in the world have come here, and they have found refuge here. And we live here in harmony. There are so many challenges that we face, yet in spite of all differences, we have this vision. During COVID times, how many countries we sent the vaccines to under the Vaccine Maitri program? Just now in Turkey, they had challenges there, and India sent the supplies. Though there are differences of opinion between Turkey and our country, there are a lot of issues which are there. But still, we ensure that this happens. Why? Because the feeling is the world is one family. So Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a beautiful vision of life that we must live, integrate in our daily lives, and ensure that it percolates to each and every individual. Now, we come to some very important actionable points here. One of the important points when we want to apply, which we want to apply, is a very simple fact, but which humanity has made it very complicated. And that simple fact is, acknowledge every faith as a valid faith. Live and let live has been our mantra in this beautiful country. We must learn to have that vision and spread it everywhere. If all different faiths come together, sit together and acknowledge that your path is as valid as my path. There cannot be only one path and that is the only path, because there are so many temperaments, there are so many minds, there are so many different individuals. So if people come together, discuss, work it out, and say that we accept each other's path as valid. And yes, paths will have differences. That's why there are different paths. So that is one very important aspect, that we learn to have this coexistence, and at an ideological level, at a dharmic level, because at dharmic level itself we are having so many conflicts there. Coming to that word dharma itself, what is the meaning of that word dharma? Many times we think dharma is religion, dharma is some cult, dharma is morality, dharma is some values. While in some contexts, dharma will have those meanings also, but the word dharma comes from the basic root called dhru. Dhru means to uphold, which integrates, which unites, which binds together. So the very definition of the word dharma is that which upholds, integrates and unites, not that which divides. So in the name of dharma, there has to be more integration, not division. And this dharma which we have, which we speak, is that which unites, integrates. What is that which unites the entire world? Anyone? We have a very enlightened audience. Straight you have hit the target. Money? Really? Love unites the whole world, all the beings, not only human beings. We spoke about world, right? Love unites the entire world. And what is that which will invoke love in our hearts? Where we see oneness, there love comes very naturally. A mother sees herself in the child. There is oneness, the natural love. Though the child is different. A musician loves the music. A patriot loves the country. A sportsman loves his sport. Wherever there is oneness, when there is one identification that happens, there will be spontaneously that love will come. And where there is love, there will be definitely the sense of values. We don't want to harm somebody whom we love. So we will follow those values of honesty, of being kind, being forgiving, being compassionate, being straightforward. All those values will come. And where those values we live, we will automatically do our duties. So the word dharma has all the four beautiful meanings. Vision of oneness leads to love, leads to values, leads to duties. Can you please share one slide, one picture here? So this vision of oneness, we come to these 4 points. I just want to share those 4 actionable points. Vision of oneness is what we just spoke about, that at all levels we are one. So the actionable point would be to ensure that we teach our children this beautiful vision of oneness, that the whole world at all levels we are one. That's the fundamental thing that has to come into the education system across the world. Because at every level, suppose at philosophical level there is a difference of opinion about consciousness, forget that. Body level, mind level, 5 elements level, science level, you can use any of these and teach the children about the vision of oneness rather than the divisive vision. This glorious land has produced so many great seekers who were young children. Though today, unfortunately, we feel that spirituality is a post-retirement plan, but this is the land. And young people, when they take to spirituality, many people ask, what happened to you? Do you have a problem? Did somebody break your heart? Are you going through some mental health issues? Why? Spirituality is as fundamental as breathing air. You can't live without breathing air. You can't live without this understanding that we are one consciousness. But that we have gone far. We have to bring back that whole vision. The Gurukul system that we had, that Vedic vision which was given to children. Just look at the Upanishad. Shvetaketu is a 20-year-old young boy who has come back from his Gurukul, and Tattvamasi, the most famous statement of the Veda, was taught to him by his own teacher, his own father. Ashtavakra Muni was a young boy, born with 8 deformities, but he doesn't see himself. He goes into the court of Janak Maharaj and everybody is laughing at him. Then he starts laughing. Everybody is stunned. Why is he laughing? And when they ask him, why are you laughing? He said, I am laughing because I see only a court. I don't see a court of wise ministers. I see only cobblers here. So Janak Maharaj is stunned because Janak Maharaj's court is supposed to be very, elite and grand with a lot of wise people. So when he said this, that they are only cobblers. Why? Because they are looking at my body and my skin. That's what a cobbler will do. They are not seeing that vision of oneness. So that this culture has produced great men like that. Shankaracharyaji's Jayanti today. Shubh Shankaracharya Jayanti. How many of us wish each other that way? One actionable point after today you can please do is wish on your different WhatsApp groups, tell people about Shankaracharyaji and wish them Shubh Shankaracharya Jayanti, because he is a great genius because of whom our Sanatana Dharma is what it is today. He revived it. If he was not there, this Sanatana Dharma would not be what it is. Today we would not even be discussing that. At young age, 8 years, he left the house. Shvetaketu, Ashtavakra Muni, Shankaracharyaji, Tukaram Maharaj, Jnaneshwar Maharaj, Muktabai, Andal. Look at these people. All of them are such young people. And how did they get that vision? Because it was there in some ways, it was given to them, imparted to them in the childhood. So one actionable point would be that teach about the vision of oneness in the education system, and do not worry about small children and whether they will understand or not. Their minds are very fresh. They can grasp so much more than what we can. Our mind thinks in devious ways. Their minds have a certain purity. They will grasp. And this thought is the first point actually, which also Dr. Abdul Kalam says in his book called Ignited Minds. How does a developing nation transform into a developed nation? The first point he mentions there is introduce spirituality into education. A scientist like him, he said that beautifully. Second actionable point is identify those practices which are unifying, encourage those. Identify those practices, prayers, whatever it may be, which are divisive, and make people aware that this is the divisive way of thinking. And today is a game of narratives. Now everybody sets their own narrative. We have to set this narrative that oneness is cool, divisions are not cool. In different ways, people do set that, they think about it, but in very limited context. We have to bring it in the mainstream where how we will live as global citizens with that vision of oneness, that becomes encouraged. So words like kafir, mlecha, heathen, pagans, jihad, these words need to be made such that people feel that no, this is not a good thing to do. One should not associate with these. One should not even have this kind of a mindset. That mindset has to be made to look inferior because it is inferior. Today it gets hyped up. Unfortunately, so many people ask this question, what is the difference between a soldier and a terrorist? Now think about it. How do we come to that level? There is a fundamental flaw in thinking. No? How can a terrorist and a soldier be ever equated? How can even a great freedom fighter be branded as a terrorist? Bhagat Singh ji was branded as a terrorist in some of the books some years back. There cannot be that kind of a comparison at all. They are way different, completely opposite. So that clarity has to come as to what is right and what is wrong. There are gray areas, there is no doubt, but again, the actionable point is to be able to understand what is right and what is wrong and discern certain things based on universal values and condemn it. If everyone comes together to condemn the mindset of this, then it will happen. Next actionable point is where we are able to do adaptability and flexibility. Bring adaptability and flexibility into the religion. One of the reasons why the Sanatana Dharma has survived thousands of years of attacks from outside and from inside is its ability to be flexible. Fanaticism versus flexibility. One has to show very clearly what is fanaticism and what is flexibility, and how cultures which have been adaptable, which have been flexible, are the cultures which will thrive, which will grow. But those cultures which are fanatic, those cultures which do not change by the changing times, they will only bring destruction and they will finally also get destroyed. Think about certain countries, what they were 40, 50 years ago and what they are today. What was Afghanistan in 70s and 60s? You think about that place, how modern and how forward it was and what it is today. Why? Because one of the reasons is the imposition which has happened. So when we don't accept all faiths as one, when one imposes, when one becomes narrow, when one doesn't change, one doesn't adapt, then that is what will bring the destruction. So in vision of oneness, these things we have to invoke. Vision of oneness will lead to love. Do we feel love for everyone? How do we feel that? Today, across the world, there is a lot of movement happening about turning vegetarian, turning vegan, because one of the ways by which we create a lot of pollution and climate issues is the second largest contributor to global warming is the non-vegetarian industry and non-vegetarian food that we consume. Of course, it is personal choices that each one has, but at least one should be open enough to understand this, that where possible, one should make the right choices where ahimsa is understood properly. In our Bhagavatam also it is said, Jivo Jivasya Jivanam, life subsists on life. But how much violence do I do for me to live? That's an important question. Minimum violence alone I need to do. Most basic. This country has explored that in different ways. If you look at the Jain traditions and how they have tried to minimize the Jiva Hatya, even while walking, even while talking, while drinking water, while eating food. So many ways. Gautam Buddha spoke about it, Mahavir Swami spoke about it. What is ahimsa? The understanding of ahimsa has to become very clear, that at the physical level, minimum himsa, at the emotional level, no himsa. That should be the criteria for deciding what is ahimsa. That I don't think ill of anybody. I wish well for everybody. In fact, that is what our Gita says. One of the first qualities that Bhagavan says, who is a devotee that Bhagavan loves? He says, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. That there is no dvesha towards anybody that one has. Such a person Bhagavan loves. And so, the understanding of ahimsa, how to love each other, how to live together, coexist as a whole creation, not just human beings, plants, birds, animals. How do we coexist? If we consider them as our family, why will we do that violence? Again, ahimsa also has to be understood that it is not completely, that we will not engage in any violence to the cost or at the cost of our own self-destruction. Self-defense is definitely a part of ahimsa. Whenever our country has been attacked, we have defended, but we will not go out and kill. We will not go out and attack. So the clarity has to be there about ahimsa. So the actionable point is this, to make people more and more sensitive about what ahimsa is truly and how to invoke that spirit of ahimsa in each one. Vision of oneness leads to love. Love leads to values. Each one can commit to one value, that this is one value that I will live uncompromisingly. Because that attitude, if it comes, then we will create great leaders who will not compromise, who will live with this higher vision, who will not compromise for comforts and conveniences, who will say that this particular value is non-negotiable and I will live it. It may be integrity, it may be honesty, it may be discipline, punctuality, whatever it may be. But one value, minimum, that one is known for. You know, Yudhishthir was known for righteousness. Today the world knows, let us say, Subhash Chandra Bose ji for tremendous strength. One value, committed to that and not given to the opposite. So if we stand for something, then we don't fall for everything. If we don't stand for something, we will fall for everything. So what is that one value that we will live? And lastly, our duties. When we have vision of oneness, when we love, when we follow values, then we will naturally do our duties. We have a duty towards ourselves. Today there is so much that we have to speak about self-love, because people don't love themselves. That's the actionable point, that self-love is the foundation. One of the reasons why violence happens in the world is because people don't love themselves and then they want to control others. One who is loving oneself, one who is fulfilled oneself, within oneself, satisfied, will not want to dominate, control, exploit. So that feeling has to come that I love myself. Self-love has to be invoked. Integration can be done, and there's a nice formula that we have for integrating the personality. Right now, IPL is going on. So the formula is T20. What is T20? 20 minutes exercise, 20 minutes meditation, 20 minutes spiritual study. If each one can be taught this, how to integrate oneself at the body level through exercise, at the mind level through meditation, at the intellectual level and spiritual level through study. If every child is taught to integrate one's personality, become healthy, love oneself, then the world can be transformed. Like Gurudev said, individual transformation alone brings world transformation. So at the duty level, I have duty towards myself. I have a duty to find out what is my true passion. That is called Swadharma. And also I have a duty then towards my community, my country, and the whole world at large. How do we make people more and more aware, sensitive? In Chinmaya Mission, we have this Chinmaya Vision program, which has all these four: integrated development, patriotism, Indian culture, and universal outlook, and taught in our schools. So from childhood, how we integrate a personality and give them that expansive vision, then we will be able to have a culture which is based on duties. Otherwise, you see today, so much one does, so many things happen, strikes, protests, many things happen where it is fighting for rights. But how much is one doing the duties, that one doesn't pay enough attention to. And especially when we see the woke culture that is there, it is lot of things which happen is just oppose. What is the constructive thing? That constructive facts have to come out, duties have to be done, world has to be made a better place. It can't just be an opposing ideology. So the idea here is this, that we must rise higher and higher in life, not just have more and more in life. So this way, at 4 levels, if we are able to do this, we will definitely create a beautiful world with the vision of oneness, an equal and inclusive world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vats. I think the audience will agree that we were right in pursuing you relentlessly. So thank you for being here and indulging us. Culture is shaping the commerce of the world. Paradox is a paradigm in India. I think you hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much. I personally believe my question paper was leaked, so I don't have questions of my own. All the 3 speakers have addressed most of what I thought I would pen down while I was to be the moderator. If you could just indulge me and join me on the dais, Ms. Ramnath and Sudhanshuji. We have some questions from the audience. We will be skipping the formal tea break in the interest of time. Those who wish to indulge and enjoy a cup of tea, please, we request you to and invite you to go ahead and have some. But in the meantime, we'd love to take some questions for our speakers. I repeat, and as nauseating it as it might be, use the pad, write your name, the organization to whom it is addressed to, and please in caps, and please hand it over to our volunteers. That would help us. Thank you. Mukul bhai, are you able to just, thank you. Apologies again for running behind a little schedule. Both the speakers, please do indulge us. Thank you. Where can we begin with a question? So maybe while we wait,
you can keep sharing one as you keep scrolling the others.
So while we wait, I could probably attempt to shoot out what I thought was not addressed. Artificial intelligence, Swamiji touched on it, Ajay bhai touched on it. Boon or bane? I mean, rapid fire or some answer beyond that? I'd like to open it out to both of you, or all three of you for that matter. So artificial intelligence, is it a global threat or an opportunity? And the perspective not restricted only to losing jobs. I mean, so
no,
your thoughts.
You know, the good news is that a lot of very intelligent minds, engineers, are already putting out a lot of videos on viral saying if you don't contain it, it will kill you. So that's a very good thing. So the world is bringing balance in itself instead of just saying go, 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 go. You know, AI is going to be so good. So I would say I am sincerely hoping that our government is looking at what could be the dark side of AI and bring regulations ahead of time. Otherwise, a very wonderful thing for human productivity can become a big danger for society.
I totally agree, I think, to what Renuka said. I think it's a very powerful thing at one level. I think if you look at ChatGPT, it's like magic, you know. So I remember one dealers meet we just did for Pidilite dealers, and on live we said, can you write a poem on Pidilite dealers? And it was a wonderful poem written, and I think, you know, it is, so at one level it is really, really good, but I think the ethical questions around it, and I think how do we look at, and I'm saying, you know, and I was reading about autonomous cars as well, how to bringing in laws which will ensure that you are able to, how do you program them, what happens, what are the laws that will govern it, what will happen in certain circumstances between when you have to choose between, in an Indian context, a cattle on the road and a small child on the road, and how will you distinguish, what are those ethical issues which are there, I think are very, very important, and I think we have to keep on discussing it, keep on having dialogue around it, keep on framing certain regulation, which is not stifling, but it is important that it continues to sort of give us the direction. I think that's very important because it is, and it's not about jobs at all, because I think jobs is the least of the worry, because I think the same thing was said when machines came, same thing was said when, so I think jobs is not the worry at all. I think that's not a problem. I think the problem is around the bigger ethical issues, and I think we have to be very careful about it, as Renuka said. I think that's the key point there. But it's a very important tool, very critical for India, I think.
So I just want to add one point.
Absolutely.
I have been a student of software programming, and when I was in my college, my project was on artificial intelligence. So, of course, I was very excited by it, and today to see it, the applications of it are very fantastic and wonderful. I also feel, like both of them said, ethical issues and many other challenges which are there need to be addressed. We cannot deny it. We cannot say it cannot be there and it cannot be banned and all that. That will never happen. But I also have a lot of hope in both ways, because artificial intelligence will bring in, like how Ajay Bhai spoke about, technology has bridged so many gaps and so many things we are able to reach. That way artificial intelligence will create many opportunities, and it will also benefit a lot of people, especially down to the weaker section itself. I also feel that it will bring much more opportunities for natural intelligence also to be developed. Even considering that suppose jobs are taken away, then many people will have to come to us. They will have to focus more on yoga, they will have to focus more on spirituality, on Vedanta, and go deeper into it. I mean, just jokes apart, but to use artificial intelligence very cleverly and clearly and ethically, that strong spiritual backing is a very important aspect. So natural intelligence and artificial must go hand in hand. The development of both needs to happen. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Swamiji. In a lighter vein, that was a good marketing pitch. But going forward, Renukaji, I have a question for you. Does your definition of value include sustainability integrated in their operations? Ms. Gauri Bhatia, somebody who's involved in healthcare. Yeah.
No, absolutely, most certainly, but it's a good point. I've not called that out as a value. We have so many values written down. Maybe I should go back, but it is in our way of life. It's in our practice. In every company, how do we bring the concept of sustainability? But I would also say that, today capital comes with these strings. It's not a choice anymore. So when we started 12 years back, we took money from Commonwealth Development Corporation of UK, who had, it comes from UK government's budgetary allocation, and it had its own objectives, and therefore they would put a lot of conditions on us on how will we fulfill on what we call as ESG, environment, social and governance obligations. And it was a check in the box for me. And I used to think this is just adding cost to my business, right? Because I have to get a consultant who has to approve that every company is complying with the UK requirement of ESG. Then fast forward another 5 years, it dawned on me that this is so real. This is such an important issue to be kept front and center. And we started with a very simple thing. I went to Credit Suisse, which is arguably a very blue-blooded, uppity investment bank, and they had water in glasses, in a jar, as opposed to plastic bottles. Somehow it just rang a bell in me. I said, hey, if Credit Suisse is doing this, what are you doing, right? We came back, and the beauty about the teams is you come back and you tell your team, CS had this, we should eliminate plastic bottles. Within a week, we had matkas beautifully decorated with beautiful write-ups on why it is important to not use plastics, encouraging everybody to drink from matkas. And another team computed how much plastic we have eradicated, and therefore how we have contributed to the carbon footprint. And from there started the journey. And today, I have a very, very senior person we have hired from a very polluting industry. So he's an environment specialist. And we are looking at how do we make ESG a differentiator? How do we become a showcase company for building responsible business? So long answer, sustainability is at the center of everything we do.
And combine 3 questions into one, if I can. I began with one of mine, and then I'll add the other 2 that have come in from the audience. Sudhanshuji, this is for you. Is it possible to achieve success today being ethical? Does the system compel one to be unethical? How can you practice being ethical in an unethical ecosystem and reduce corruption in a global sense? It's a mouthful, but just to add, there's somebody from a small business background who asked, how do you manage all ethics and sound principles for small businesses and survive? So it's not scale, it's universal. And lastly, I'm just going to throw in one more. Can corporates create a sustainable employment culture against a hire and fire approach? So all of these, if you could, just together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, is it possible to be ethical? I think it is possible to be ethical. I think if you look at, I'm a marathon runner. So I ran Boston, and that's why I'm coming from US now. I think life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I think the mistake we sometimes make in different stages of our careers or in businesses and all that is we treat it as a sprint. And we look at that sprint and that phase and say, how do I win that? And at one level, it's not incorrect, but if you look at it as a sprint, you are right in saying that how do I win this sprint, this 100-meter race? In order for me to win this 100-meter race, I need to do X, Y, Z. But my view is if you convert that 100-meter race into a 42-kilometer run, saying that I'm going to run for 42 kilometers, I'm going to pace it at my own level, and I'm going to run it well, it is a race. So there, I'm not debating that's not a race. So I think it is possible. All good businesses, longer term, are built ethically. Ethics is very important. If you are not an ethical business, one day or the other, you will go bust. And you can see that it's happening so more often than not now. Size doesn't matter any longer. So I think there are impediments. It is also incorrect for me to say that there are no impediments. I think in the society which you work with, there are issues, but there are workarounds around that. There are ways in which what you will say, what you will stand for. So therefore, it's important to build sustainable businesses, to build business around value. It'll sustain in the longer term, and it'll help you to sort of build that business. So I think that's one part. I think on the, what was the other question?
Employment.
The sustainable employment question. I think, see, different people will give you different answers for this. I think a technology industry has a different view. I don't come from technology industry. But most of our companies, if you look at it, traditional companies, if I can use that word, we don't follow a strict hire and fire policy. Actually, as again, in India, if you look at even during COVID, many companies did not retrench. So therefore, you know, Pidilite did not retrench at all. Many companies resorted to looking at salaries and perhaps working around that, no variable, no bonus. So I think we are a more communal society, we are more community-oriented society, so therefore it comes a bit more naturally to us that in all spheres it's not hire and fire. But it depends from business to business, and I think there are sometimes requirements, and it also depends on what is your own temperament. Because nowadays, I think one is about hire and fire, which is at the company level, but at the same time, there is this concept of moonlighting and gig working, and so therefore I'm saying we have to take a view. If we are a gig worker, then hire and fire is not a problem for us. And if we are the other types, then there are, so to me, I think there are different strokes for different folks, and there are different types of companies available. So it depends on what you want to do, where you want to work, you will find your answer. So I think that's the way it is. But in an Indian context, in general, it is not such a big thing, at least in India even now, and may not be also, because I personally believe that we need to find a balance. I think being too capitalist, which is where I sound Melinda, I ended also. I personally feel there are issues now with the American society. They've got to reinvent themselves. They will have to rethink capitalism because, you know, I was there in that country and it's such a rich country, but the quality of service is so poor. Why is the quality of service poor? Because they don't pay well. Their minimum wage is problem in big cities. Why is the minimum wage problem? Because they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay, like Renuka was saying, because they want to make profits now. But think of it, you are a rich country. Don't you deserve good service? Forget about a person traveling from India. I'm saying in your own country, there are 300 million people. You deserve good service. If you deserve good service, please pay well. If you have to pay well, then be a bit more. So I think that's the way. Why are you suffering bad service? I don't understand as a society. So therefore, I think we have to reinvent this piece. I think, you know that.
Is that possibly a social consequence of entitlement? Just a thought. The cycle that of what life goes through, which leads me actually to a question for Swamiji, in line with maybe entitlement and the fact that about responsibility. It's not mine, somebody else needs to take care of it, I need to get taken care of, etc., in multiple formats. So with the background of Dharma, how do you make a nation responsible and to achieve great heights? Where does it begin? Does it begin from a government telling you what to do?
So it always begins from both ends of the ladder. It has to be a top-down approach also, and it has to go from bottoms up also. Top-down approach in the sense, if you just see what has happened in the last few years, much more accountability, responsibility. When the Prime Minister says that I am the Pradhan Sevak, and the Prime Minister says that I will give you the report of what I have done in the last year. Now Prime Minister himself is becoming accountable, responsible, and showing and leading the way, and that's what our Dharma says, Yadyad acharati shreshtaha tatteda eva itaro janaha. So from the top, if the leaders set that benchmark that we take responsibility, we are accountable, and we will ensure that the people to whom we are responsible for, we will explain what has been done, why it has been done, how much it has been done. That sets a very great standard for everyone else to follow. And we see so much work happening also, not to discount from anyone else who has been doing any work, but you see the change in the culture itself. I heard Anand Mahindra ji speaking the other day, and he said that corruption is virtually non-existent at the top brass right now. That was a statement coming from such a great industrialist. Was not, it's not an ordinary statement coming. So one is it comes from top, bottom also. And second is it goes from bottom to top in the sense that every single individual, when they take on the responsibility with the attitude of nation above self, then the whole nation can become responsible. It cannot be only a few people. Again, we hold some people responsible for certain things and say, put the blame very easily, government should do this, or this organization should do this, or that person should do that, like you said. But what did I do? What is my duty first? If I change, then the world around me changes. So each one has to take their responsibility, that our culture says, but that will come when we have a higher vision. So our scriptures explain about that so clearly. If Bhagavan Ram put nation above self, and Sita ji agreed with his decision that she went to the forest, she was sent to the forest, that's a fantastic explanation of how a nation is put above the individual self and sacrifice is done. You see the contrast happens in Mahabharata, where he is not able to put the nation above the self, and Dhritarashtra lands up in creating destruction of 40 million people. So you see the responsibility, how it comes. If a person has that vision, that nation is above self, all things will come. It can be company, it can be culture, it can be family, it can be whatever that is. Altar of dedication, it can be anything. But that has to be there. Then integrity will come, then all these factors will come in, where responsibility will not be a problem. Thank you.
So there is one question here. You spoke about purpose is needed more than money to build a business. What is the best way to define and articulate a founder's purpose in a business context? So, a great question. I think I'll just take my example to answer this, because I don't want to theorize this. So when I left ICICI, I was 49 years old. I'd done professionally enough, worked very, very hard, made a name for myself, and by grace of God, had enough money to retire. So there was many advice coming from many quarters. That's again beauty of Indian families. And my mother, being my mother, she felt that I worked so hard to the abandon of my own health and well-being. She was the only one who said, I think you should do nothing and put your feet up, right? And my son said, Amma, I know whatever you play, you will win, so choose your game carefully, right? And my father would not be happy if I don't become the finance minister of this country. He's too ambitious for me. So he said, continue to do something. And I sat back and I asked myself, what should I be doing? And I went and spoke to I have a spiritual guru, and I said, Guruji, I think I am blessed with this capability to make good investments and to choose good entrepreneurs and guide them to build good businesses. And I said, they did in my introduction as well. And I genuinely get huge inner satisfaction to see the amount of jobs created. So when we have an investment, we played a very significant role in building PVR cinemas to the size and scale it is. Every time I go to watch a movie, I always look and count the number of people who are in uniforms. To see all these people got jobs and a hope in life because we made that bet, right? So there is so much inner satisfaction coming from bringing that knowledge at play to fulfill the dreams of many entrepreneurs who in turn create so many jobs, create wealth, create meaning, contribute to social good, bring the wealth back into the economy, and it is kind of an endless virtuous cycle. And if you have the capability to do it and make your own humble contributions to that ripple effect, how can you be selfish and say, I have made enough money, I have worked enough hard, I have made enough name for myself, and why should I do anything? Who am I here? You know, if I turn it around and say, who gave you all this? Some institution, some bunch of bosses who tolerated me, some bunch of people who tolerated my mistakes, who made me who I am today, and I have to pass it forward. It is not mine. It belongs to the society. It has to go back from where it came. And therefore, I said to indulge yourself into laziness and entitlement is just a wrong thing to do. And that's how Multiples was really born. So I feel it is for each person to sit back and say, what has made me who I am? How can I therefore pass it forward? And that then gives the answer in terms of what is your core calling, and then gives you the idea to kind of go forward.
I'm sure we could go on and on in the interest of time and the commitment our speakers have given. In the same line, I just have one last question. Swamiji, there are lots of questions for you, but I think as a good host, we should offer it to our guests. There's a question from a student, and I think I'd leave it to all three of you to answer if you like. As a student, to make a difference in the community, how to start small but carry out a big change with little influence. The speaker spoke about, which sources, communities or websites are legitimate and authentic. How should one distinguish? So I'll repeat that. I'm sorry. As a student, to make a difference in the community, how to start small but carry out a big change with little influence. Which sources or communities and websites are legitimate and authentic? How should one distinguish? If I might pipe in, you could join the youth empowerment program with Swamiji. But no, more seriously.
I think to you, my point of view is there is nothing big or small in it. And I think maybe Swamiji also spoke about it and Guruji also spoke about that. Basically, we can start, I think most of us as human beings aspire to be happy. I think that is perhaps a universal aspiration. And my own view is one way to be happy is by giving. And giving is a big word, but a smile is also giving. Giving a smile to a person is a gift, is giving. So therefore, coming to your question, I'm thinking if you are interested, if you're a student, if you're good at something, you can perhaps take small tutorials free of cost, teach some kids. That is one thing you could do. You can go to many schools. There are good foundations which are available where you can go to and then perhaps enroll as a part-time teacher there. So I can again recommend, to Milan's point, I can pitch in. I work with Akanksha Foundation. So if you're interested, I'll basically connect you to them. They do a bunch of good work, I think. So therefore, my view is there is nothing big or small. It is always important to make a start. And I think start by saying that we do it for ourselves. We don't do it for others. But in doing it for ourselves, I think giving is also a gift to oneself and to be happy. And I think that's the way I would look at it. There's nothing big or small. Decide on what you want to do and begin your journey there. And I think, build from there. So I think that's the way it is. So that's what I would say.
Beautifully said it. I, again, speaking from my life's experience, I will say, don't start with this mental block that I have less influence. You have a core calling. You want to do something that you think is important. Just go out. The world will surprise you in terms of how much they will stand behind you. But it will come from known and unknown quarters, and where you are very sure you're going to get help, you may not get at all. You know, you should not be disappointed. Just keep going and you will be surprised. I can say from my personal experience that for a good cause done with a good intention, the amount of help and energy that is there in this world will be humbling.
Thank you so much, Renuka ji. Yes, I think with this we come to the conclusion of the first session. On behalf of Chinmaya Mission Mumbai, we thank both our speakers. Truly, truly, thank you very much for sparing the time and sharing your thoughts with us.